in time for my son to play football on that wonderful team that won the state championship.
Wow.
So,
Thank you. This meeting is now called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present except for Mr. Waxler, who could not make it this evening. Do we have a motion to excuse Mr. Waxler?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Mr. Hancock, all those in favor of excusing Mr. Waxler, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, hope he gets some rest and gets feeling better. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Minutes for city council meetings. Right. Okay. Without any such motion, I'll endorse them. And do we have any liaison meeting requests or reports? And do we have any comments from council this evening? Mr. Corbett.
Yeah, I just want to take a minute to thank everybody involved that put together that special Memorial Day service that we had. It was well done and well attended, and I know it takes a lot of work to do it for all involved, so we appreciate all their efforts.
Thank you. I'll probably have a few things to say when it's my turn.
Do we have any other comments from council? All right. On my desk, just a reminder, I mentioned it last time we were together, but for those people inside the city, all Class C and D retail permits to sell alcoholic beverages are due by June 1st, 2025. If you have a liquor license and you need to renew it, it needs to be renewed by June 1st, which is only just a couple days away. But that's all that's on my desk. Mayor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, thank you, Mr. Corbett, for your comments and recognition. I'll just say, first and foremost, as you mentioned, it takes a lot of different people. Debbie Stevens, my assistant, Ryan's assistant, pulls all that together. Today, she started on next year's. And although she won't be working on it continuously, she'll make sure that we have the piper, and she'll make sure that we get our speaker lined up, and so on and so on and so on. But you know, it was several years ago when back on Debbie, but and she's done a marvelous job. And it's my understanding this isn't being broadcast on TV right now, so nobody's going to hear my comments. But until this year, we always had a meeting a month or so before the whole event started. But this year, because we have a bunch of veterans at it, we didn't do it, and everything went off without a hitch. Now next year we'll have a new band director ready as far as mowing and trimming go, and just thank them all. And then Matthew Hart is the piper, and we really enjoy Matthew. We think he does a spectacular job, and as I said, I'm sure Debbie's already got him reserved for next year. And part of the program yesterday late, I announced, Tanya Brunner was the speaker. Spectacular speech. I said to her afterwards, that should be published in required reading for every student in the Defiance City school system, because they need to know that we do have many, many, many local heroes that have given their life for the country. I was also asked to announce on July 2nd, which I know is a ways off, so I'm sure Mr. Mack will follow up with this in the future. At 7 p.m. at the Defiance County Courthouse War Memorial, there will be a brief but meaningful ceremony of remembrance for the War Memorial's 25th anniversary. And they will be reading the names of veterans killed in the war, missing in action, and then executed POWs. There won't be any seating available, so if you'd like to sit, even though it's a brief ceremony, you should probably bring your own chair. And in addition to all of that, I guess first things first, Stephen Covey's rule number 3 that the kids from Holy Cross always teach me is, I had mentioned to council a few weeks ago that it was my intention to reappoint Mr. Mack as our city administrator for the balance of 25 and into 26. So that is my desire.
So unless there's a motion and a second to reverse this decision, then the determination of the mayor regarding the renewal and the appointment of Ryan Mack as city administrator, unless there's a motion to reverse it. Mr. Agresti?
I don't have a motion, but I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Mr. Mack has done a tremendous job, and he's been a good addition to the administration. He's worked well with the city council, and we appreciate him being here.
Thank you, Mr. Agresti.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
But without any such motion, then the decision of the mayor's appointment can move forward. Congratulations, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I have actually tried to bait people to talk bad about you, and all I hear are compliments and that you are very professional and that you do what you say you promise you're going to do, which is refreshingly good.
You must have a very small group of people you're trying to make.
And then lastly, I just wanted to mention to everybody, I know they're already feeling this, there's a lot going on around the city with infrastructure work, and there's more to come. I know we've persevered through Jefferson Street, and there'll still be paving work to do on Jefferson later this year. But we're wrapping up a sewer line project over by Zion's Lutheran Church on the east side. We're just getting started on the water line project on Hopkins Street. So there is plenty of construction going on, and folks are just gonna have to be patient. Around here, we haven't always been the most patient group of folks. A lot of us didn't get the patient gene, myself included. But we just need to work on patience and be patient and work through all this. The safety of those workers has to be first and foremost for us here at the city. And we're going to do everything we can to protect them. And that is all I have.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And before we move on to Mr. Mack, I got a note that DCTV is not broadcasting tonight's meeting and YouTube is not taking it up. But tonight's meeting is being saved, and so it will be at some point viewable.
I'll try to get it up tonight.
Excellent. Please do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. One thing I wanted to add to that Memorial Day ceremony as well. So I stand in the back at those types of events. The very back part of my job is to make sure people are where they're supposed to be and things are getting done. It's not hard because we have such a great workforce here. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, I stood back with those football players you were talking about and their coaches. I don't know if it's the coaches, the parents, or a mixture of both. Those young men were incredibly respectful and well behaved throughout the whole ceremony. I cannot speak highly enough on the character that they showed, back there, being respectful for the events and the people that, were talking and things like that. So it's, when you get that many, young men in a group, sometimes it gets a little rowdy, but they were incredibly respectful. So kudos to the coaches out there and the parents that raised them. It was a good group of young men. Secondly, we had the Lilac Festival. We had the splash pad opening with all these things. And what does that mean? We're rolling into summer. So the final, coup de grace of summer is here. The docks are in at Pontiac Park. We just got those in last week. And the city pool will open for the first time on Monday, June 2nd. So we will be in full summer swing. The city, several of the division heads, is also going to be working on a public auction this summer. So it should take place sometime mid next month, hopefully. Still working out a lot of the details, so I don't have a specific date. I will let you know when that comes up. But anything from push mowers to recovered bicycles from the police department should be on display. So I wanted to make you aware of that beforehand. OmniFiber. We've talked about OmniFiber several times, several of the fiber optic problems. I have a call in from one of their representatives asking, they have sent crews out to tidy up their areas a little bit more. I don't know if you've noticed around town, I see a lot of the wires hanging, coiled nicely or in appropriate positions. But the gentleman who's made contact with me wanted to see if there was any final things, because we're still holding out on approving some permits until we're satisfied with the cleanup. So if you have any specific addresses or crossroads, intersections where you know of a problem, please let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna get those approved and taken care of for them. And then lastly, I will have, the mayor's touched on different construction projects going on around town. I didn't want to do a full construction update because I knew we had some nuisance topics to discuss. So next week, I should have a full update on construction projects here in the city of Defiance. And that is all, Mr. President.
Any questions? Oh,
I guess I have two more things.
sure.
Mr. Mack mentioned the opening of Kingsbury Pool, and I already did have somebody ask me this morning why we closed Kingsbury Pool so early in August. And the reason is most of our lifeguards are college kids, and so they go back to school. And some of them do want a little break for about a week from the time that they go back to school, and so that is why we close it in the first or second week of August. Is we don't have lifeguards. You can't have a pool without a lifeguard.
Right.
I have read articles where senior citizens who were lifeguards in their youth are coming back and being lifeguards in their golden years. So if anybody's out there,
So any interested parties?
yeah,
Contact the
that
city.
would like to be a lifeguard,
Sorry, you're drowning, kid.
that would be terrific.
And if we get enough volunteers, perhaps the pool could stay open a little bit later.
Yeah. And then the other thing Jen English asked me to mention, that the Riverfest is Saturday, June 28th. And I think she's going to be sending out a sign-up sheet for anybody that might be interested in working. I know Mr. Corbett, you usually, you and Mr. Mass both I see down there, and it's my understanding that if I get my boat running, I'll be giving boat rides. So if I don't get my boat running, Jen's gonna kill me. So. My boat will be running. So June 28th, Riverfest. Most of that happens down at Pontiac Park. Thank you. Still anesthetic.
Now we're good.
We're good. Mr. O'Donnell.
I have nothing for you at this time, but more to come later.
Got it. And Ms. Sprague.
Just a couple of things to add to the Kingsbury Pool. The city did partner with the Y to offer swimming lessons this summer. There's a couple of sessions, one in June and one in July. And last I heard, we had about 40 kids signed up. So we're hoping that it's well received, because the pool at the Y is temporarily shut down while they are getting it rehabbed. So I think it'll be good for the city too to offer the swimming lessons. It's definitely needed. If you know anybody that's lifeguarded down there, will tell you that kids need to know how to swim. So I have a few checks. The first one's for finance, 2025-01095, Defiance County Commissioners. This is 50% of the share for the kayaks. Ryan had brought this up last year, and I know we talked about it prior, but the kayaks that you can rent down at Pontiac Park, our half of that is $17,500. Water pollution control, 2025-01093, Mosier Construction, Kingsbury emergency piping modifications for pump 1 in the amount of $35,600. And then streets, 2025-01077, Ohio asphalt paving. It's to complete the paving parking lot at the streets and Parks Barn. The guys did a lot of it themselves, but this part obviously they couldn't finish themselves. So $15,559. Those are all the checks that I have. And then Lori wanted me to mention that the summer sewer credit will go into effect for the June, July, and August bills. You don't need to call to get the credit. It just is automatic. However, if you're filling a pool, it's always nice to give them a heads up. But same thing we do every year, and credit the sewer adjustment. So that's all I have.
All right, and you sent out the financial reports
Yes.
for
Yep, I'm
council's
sorry.
review earlier. This is
Yep.
the last Tuesday of the month, And so unless we have any objections or corrections to the financial reports, we'll assume that the reports are approved. Do we have any motion to correct or amend the financial reports?
Thank you.
It looked good to me when I read them. So thank you.
Yep, thanks.
With that, we have 5 items of legislation for considering this evening. Would you read the caption for the first?
Yeah. First reading and caption only, an ordinance creating the Jefferson South Tax Increment Financing Incentive District, declaring improvements to the parcels within the incentive district to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, requiring the owners of those parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of those services payments, specifying the public infrastructure improvements that benefit our served parcels in the incentive district and providing for immediate effect.
Good job. Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Baden Properties Limited owns these 3 parcels that are undergoing some development. You may recall the developers, all of them here 2 meetings ago, regarding a zoning map amendment. And as this project gets underway, the city would like to capture a portion of the increase in the assessed taxable value of the property and direct that money towards public improvements that are inside of what we call an incentive district, a TIF incentive district. With the knowledge that the increase in population, talking about 90 or 91 odd units, will create more demand on city services and city amenities. With this particular project, the city administration would like to focus on resurfacing the tennis courts at Palmer Park and also some improvements at Palmer Park. There are some other prospective improvements that we've discussed inside City Hall, but without a harder number from the until the project happens, we don't want to commit to any further improvements until we see the numbers. We're asking council to declare the increase in the assessed value of these 3 parcels to be, number 1, a public purpose. And then number 2, that act passage would exempt 75% of those improvements to the parcels from taxation for a period of 10 years. And then finally, passage of this ordinance would enable the city to set aside a special TIF fund that would help pay for some of these improvements in both the TIF area, the 3 parcels, as well as the incentive district, which is a 1 mile radius from those parcels. Section 5709.40 Ohio Revised Code requires council to allow for at least 30 days from that May 6th public hearing that we just had regarding the TIF until final passage. So that puts us at about June 10th. Therefore, we're asking that council not suspend any rules tonight, just let consideration of this matter lay for a second reading.
All right. Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Matt?
Mr. O'Donnell, is there any estimation whatsoever on a number? Or is it just so out there that we can't even?
We did inquire, but we were not able to produce any hard number or even estimating numbers.
And this only affects the new homes being built, right, in that new section?
As far as their taxable value, yes. We've never actually done this kind of TIF before, the incentive district. It allows us to go out and look at a lot of the public amenities and infrastructure from a 1 mile radius out. It's 5709.40C. But again, that's just because you're putting 90 households in there, we can see some increased usage of the parks.
Any other questions for Mr. O'Donnell?
Motion to let lie.
Motion to let lie, Mr. Hancock. Second, Mr. Corbett. All those in favor of letting this issue lie till we meet next time, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we will let this one lie.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance amending ordinance number 8471 regarding an electricity supply contract for municipality facilities and declaring an emergency.
Mr. O'Donnell.
This one's kind of a strange one as well. You don't see it all the time. You may recall back on January 3rd, 2023, that authorizing an electrical supply contract for 16 of our facilities, including this building we're in right now, 16 city facilities. And that contract was with Constellation New Energy. I have it right here. One of the provisions in that contract says that, you know, they allow, in so many words, it allows variations in price subject to change in law. We see that with some frequency in our contracts here at the city, with the understanding that changes in law are very few and far between. Well, guess what? It happened, and with some justification, the Ohio General Assembly did take up some new legislation, including House Bill 15, which was written, directed by our own state representative, out of concern for the integrity of the grid, the electric grid. Since 2023, when we signed this contract, we're hooked up to the eastern grid in the United States. In that area, you've seen coal plants go offline, but you've also seen a huge increase in cell phones and data centers, and so supply has gone down, demand has gone up. The General Assembly took some action and allowed these electrical supply generators to invoke these clauses in so many words. So anyway, they're invoking the clause. Without any action, there is a electrical capacity price increase that takes effect June 1st. The company that we use to advise us and negotiate on these matters was able to convince the electrical supply company to, in lieu of giving us a surcharge starting next month, this contract runs until the end of 2027. They said, well, why don't you, if we can guarantee another year through 2028, can we do that to avoid these capacity surcharges? The answer from the company was yes. So that's what we're asking you tonight. If you're willing to amend the contract for these 16 properties, to just add another year on the back end, meaning we don't pay any more right now. On the back end, the current rates, and these are subject to fluctuation, but if we sign for it right now, would be 6.921 cents per kilowatt hour. But again, it's all about what the markets are doing when you execute the contract.
Thank you. Mr. Mast?
Just to be very specific here, so there's no confusion, this is strictly for the contract that the city has for city-owned properties and has nothing to do with the community aggregate program that currently in place as well.
Yeah, the electric aggregate, this doesn't touch the electric aggregation program at all. We will be discussing that probably later on this summer, and that's all I want to say about that.
Right, I just want to make sure we're very specific when we start talking electrical rates, people get a little concerned. And just make sure you know that this is just for municipal locations.
Thanks for clarifying, yes.
I think it was fairly clear, but I just want to make sure.
Mrs.
I'm glad
Crutch?
you did that too. So you're basically thinking that we'll just go to 2028 when it says the 48 months? Is that what we're extending it to?
Yeah, it would be through December 31st, 2028.
And that's as far as they'll let you go? They won't let you go up to 2030 or extend it even any more that you'd have to keep coming back?
I generally don't advise super long contracts, I mean,
Okay.
for our interest here at the city, because if you look, I mean, the past even 40 years in these markets, it's kind of been doing this. I mean, it's gradually increasing, but we could catch when the prices are going down and be locked into a longer term contract. And I don't know if you remember when oil was very expensive in the mid to late 2000s, you had all these variable contracts, and Southwest was locked in at $50 a barrel, Southwest Airlines.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be in the position where we're stuck in the reverse situation.
Sounds good.
Any other questions for Mr. O'Donnell in these regards? Mr. Mast?
No further questions. Motion has been called.
Motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Corbett?
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mast,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
and Mr. Hancock.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Corbett.
Second.
Second, Mr. Engel.
Mr. Mast,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
and Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorization to the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund for improvements to the wastewater treatment plant and declare an emergency.
Mr. Mack?
Several times this year about significant expenditures that will be taking place at our water pollution control facility this year. This ordinance would authorize me to apply for a WPLF low interest loan. The loan would cover the design and construction process for our IWIP required plant upgrades. Those upgrades will include a new septic receiving facility, so it'll allow septic haulers to easier access to our site, while simultaneously keeping them more out of the way of our actual plant operations, nicer for our plant workers. We will also be putting in new headworks, which will install things like finer bar screens, which will, when septic comes into our plant, we screen it all out. You'd be amazed at the large hunks of things that are coming down that pipe. These finer screens will protect our plant, a lot of very expensive pumps and things like that, by filtering out even smaller debris. So those are the main things that we will be working on. If you have any technical questions about any of it, we have brought our resident expert, Assistant Water Pollution Control Superintendent Kevin Connor here to answer any of those questions financially. This loan is in the amount of $6,134,100.
Mr. Uresti?
No questions. Motion to suspend and call.
Did you have a question, Mr. Hancock?
Yes, sorry. Do you have any idea what the rate will be?
Just above 3%. I can't remember.
She said three and a quarter,
3 1/4.
give or take.
For 6 million?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Engel? Before I-
He seconded the motion.
I'm getting old in my ears. So we have a motion to suspend and call from Mr. Uresti. A second, Mr. Engel?
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
and Mr. Mast.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Crutch.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
and Mr. Mast.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is also adopted.
And thank you for everything that you do.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing application for community development block grant, critical infrastructure funds for the Ralston Avenue Roundabout project and declare an emergency.
Mr. Mack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is another project we've talked about. I believe it was closer to budget season though. So with added traffic along the Ralston corridor, our engineer has been working towards plans that would allow roundabouts at the intersections around the ProMedica area. This would aid and make safer the flow of traffic through the area. This is obviously a costly project, so the engineer has worked diligently on assembling different funding sources to make this project a reality. One possible source is CDBG Critical Infrastructure Grants. We'd like your permission to apply for this $500,000 grant.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Mack?
No further questions, motion to submit the call. We
Motion
want
to
the money.
suspend the call. Mrs. Crutch, second. Mr. Corbett?
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett.
Yes.
Mr. Hancock.
Yes.
Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
Mr. Mass.
Yes.
And Mrs. Crutch.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mast.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Hancock.
Yes.
Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
Mr. Mass.
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch.
Yes.
Mr. Engel.
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett.
Yes.
And with that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only. An ordinance amending ordinance number 8620 passed December 3rd, 2024 to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Defiance, Ohio during the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Ms. Bragg?
Yes, these are my supplemental appropriations. I'm just gonna run through the summary sheet that I had sent out. The first line is computer maintenance equipment for $30,000, finance. As you recall, we did get a new software system for our timekeeping. Last year when we did the budget, we were not anticipating that we would have to pay an entire year of the old system. And so they said we did. So, which we're currently still on, and we need, and then in June we'll transition to the new. So that's just a one-time deal, and then we'll be done just paying for the new system. Jake also needed to install some additional servers. So the line below, 3,000 is for that. 10,000 for special counsel for law. Sean's had to reach out and use some additional counsel or legal for some of the things we've got going on. Our quarterly payment for our liability insurance is higher than what originally we budgeted, 30,000. Same thing with our annual fix. The way they break that up is kind of wonky. Same thing, 60,000. Splash Pad had a couple of those canopies, the overhead canopies, and a slide that needed, it's a completely new slide and completely new canopies. We couldn't repair either, and that's where 6,500. Hazard mitigation, 20,000, into capital. As you're well aware, we've had a few demos go on in the city to knock down some properties. Capital contingency, there were a couple of pole lights that were taken out. So we pulled that to repair both those. Was one down at Triangle and one was down at Chief.
Yes.
We pulled that to repair this from capital contingency. However, we'll see that money back in because they're filed insurance claims on, or those people were paying through their insurance.
Yeah, 25,000 came in today.
Yeah, so of course, we have to pay for it when it's due. Meters, 50,000. The increase in just housing, the new homes and all of that stuff. We've spent a lot more, but down in the revenue side, we'll see that money back. Intern, 20,000 stormwater, that's Jen's intern. Last year when we did the budget, she wasn't real sure how that would work out, and she's able to keep an intern on. And then the sludge for water. Last year, we went the entire year without having any sludge hauled. So those funds that we had set aside for last year, we used to help offset our chemical cost at water. And then it'll push us probably having to have it hauled twice in 1 year this year. So Joe was aware of it. We talked about it at the end of last year. So we just, shifted out of 1 year into the next, which is what that 350,000 is for. So the total is $629,500. And then down below, the tap connection charges is where we'll see that money back for the meters, $50,000. It's due to all the new development that's going into town. Overall, though, our revenues look pretty consistent. I'd say they're up about 2%, give or take. It's just real quickly that income tax can get, can be shortfall if anybody lays people off, that type of thing. So we always want to be aware of what's going on in the community. So, and to note about the loan we're taking out, I did look at the debt schedule just real quick. There's 2 debt payments coming off in 28 and 4 coming off in 29 for wastewater. So it's nice to have that many coming off and just one coming back on for now.
Pretty much, yes.
Right? So, and then there's a handful in 2030 and 31, and then after that it gets spaced out a little further, but keep a close eye on that debt schedule.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Bragg in these regards? Mr. Engel,
No questions, motion been called.
motion to suspend and call?
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast.
Mr. Rusky?
Yes.
Mr. Mast?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mast.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Mast?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
All right. With that, our final item of legislation is adopted. Before we adjourn for the evening, we always take citizens' concerns and questions. Do we have anyone here who would like to? Please, Mr. Posey, come up to the mic and state your name.
I'm Plonny Posey. I live at 1504 Dublin Court, Kettering Hills. First of all, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Doug Harrell. He passed away and okay, thank you. First of all, on Deerwood Court or Deerwood Drive, it's become a racetrack down through there. It's just the other night we had 2 cars side by side racing down through there. They were literally racing. And when I walk my dog, there's no concern as to safety. And I appreciate the fact that you give me 2 signs on each street down there, each one of them. But down on the south end by the old credit union, down through there, when they come around that corner, it's lead foot. Okay? And they just tear it up down through there. And it's all the way down to Pinehurst. And on Pinehurst itself and Burning Tree, whatever it takes. But the Deerwood thing is really getting mad. And I addressed it before, but I need something going right there at that corner, that curve at on the by the credit union. So let people know, hey, this can't be happening. I walk my dog every day. And and I just...
I wave to you.
Oh, yeah. I ignore you. No, I just see. But no, I just. Oh, one other thing. What they do. My wife and I, all even days, holidays, we put flags up. We put 100 flags up in our association. Well, it got stopped. Our president of the association amended our rules, not allowing us to put these flags up in there. I've had numerous people stop and ask me where my flags are. I said, I had to explain to them why it was done. And it's just, I had to bring this to the public to let them know, a lot of people's upset. So it hurts me bad. I tell you, I have a lot of pride when I come down Holgate Avenue. So much pride. So Cleveland Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, wherever these individuals put these flags up. My brother and I both served in Vietnam. And it just, you don't know how bad it hurts to have somebody like this have the power. He's on a power surge. He's been on a power surge for a long time. And I just had to bring this to the public. It can't keep what happening. This is where the United States is going. It can't happen like that. This is assemble or
Mr. Posey, if you have a question for council, that's fine. If you want to discuss the homeowners association dynamics, that would be something to discuss with the board of
Right,
the
I understand
homeowners
that.
association.
I had your answer. I just wanted to let you know that it is.
All right. Well,
Just
thank you very
bothers me.
much.
Thank you.
And I got ahead of myself. I went to citizens' concerns, but we actually have I skipped right over a study session, didn't I?
Thought you'd never ask.
Okay.
Okay, so you asked me to kind of take a deep dive into our nuisance code and some of the provisions in there, but to see if maybe council should add some more teeth to the enforcement side. And it's always a healthy exercise. I will tell you, when I was relatively new as the law director, we at that time, up until last month, the city law department in the county seat would prosecute all of the nuisances and township zoning violations for all the townships countywide. Ohio General Assembly just changed that law. The governor signed it. Took effect in April, so that job goes to the county prosecutor for outside the city, but we would do it countywide. And there was this one repeat offender, problem property over in Hicksville Township, right near or on Defiance, Ohio State Line Road or Indiana State Line Road. And I remember we prosecuted it. We won. We got the defendant to tender a plea, the landowner to tender a plea, and I thought the case was over. And next thing I know, former county commissioner calls me up, and I was like, "Well, a county commissioner's calling me. That doesn't happen every day." And this, he probably wants to congratulate me on our win. And it turns out he did not wish to congratulate me. I forget who he is, but I'll think of his name in a second.
He was the handsome one from a couple of years back, I think.
Well, he didn't sound that handsome over the phone that day. Because he said, "What are you doing? The property's not cleaned up." And my response was, "Yeah, but we took it to court and we won. The case is closed." And I tell that story only to demonstrate that every branch comes with different tools on what we can accomplish with this code. Courts are about meting out punishments and identifying the offenders and assessing the fines. And jail time too, as you'll see, if it's necessary. We have tool. I want to show you tonight. We also have tools at the city where we can just abate the nuisance entirely, because what that county commissioner wanted, he didn't really care about the wins and losses in the court column. He wanted results for his constituents, and to that end, I don't really blame him. The mayor has a saying that gets repeated around the walls of City Hall. We want to build a culture of compliance. And sometimes that, it sounds kind of rah-rah, but...
I haven't crossed it off my list of things to do.
Right. But there is, I think there is a truth buried in there. Some of your neighborhoods, if you notice somebody starts washing their car, what does everybody else do in the neighborhood? They all start washing their cars on Memorial Day weekend. There's some contagion there. It also goes in reverse. So if somebody's yard starts to fall apart, then you see some of the other yards start to fall apart. So we're continually pushing that culture towards compliance. Could you go to the next slide, please? So I just wanted to go over some of the most common things that we bring to the nuisance abatement board here at the city, and also charge for on occasion at the municipal court. Structures that are out of repair, endanger other properties or persons. So that's one. Next slide, please. Trash, rubbish, Tires, we get a lot of tires. And one clause that we've come to use of late is the materially interfering with the prevention or suppression of fire upon the premises. There was a property on Jefferson, I believe, about a year and a half ago, and we relied on that clause. Mr. Waxler, I think, was bringing it up. It was constantly getting underbrush growing over it, and it would hinder the firefighters' path to it. So we'll use that one when we need to. Next slide. Weeds and turf grass this time of year are prevalent, and basically, I mean, we have the Ohio Department of Ag's list of noxious weeds, but we're just looking for anything exceeding 10 inches in an area where it's obviously supposed to be turf. I mean, we're not going to go out in the middle of the woods and try to find stuff. But yeah, if we see that, we have, as you probably know, we have summer seasonal hires that go around, post signs, and then if they're not mowed, they will mow it with the charge. And then what did we decide? It was $80 for the first hour.
So it is. So those summer nuisance workers, they'll go post a sign on high grass, and they have a week to comply. If they get there and it has not been mowed within a week, they then start to do it. It's $85 for the first 45 minutes of mowing and $32.50 for each additional 15 minutes after that.
And I think that maybe goes to your question, Mr. Engel, and we've been debating internally, is that enough? Without it being, we don't necessarily want it to go into punitive territory, because punitive is going to mean we have to settle it over there at the court, on the court's timeline.
2 people, truck, a trailer, a mower, don't do much weed eating, but sometimes they will just because they can't get to something with a mower, but that's what it involves. And it's certainly not a money-making proposition and shouldn't be, but we should recover our costs.
Yeah, it's not landscaping. It's bringing these properties into compliance, promoting the health and safety and the integrity of the surrounding properties. That's the goal. So yeah, we're not gonna. They're not gonna edge and trim and all that stuff.
And especially when it's just the mowing that we're citing for, the nuisance signs do have an effect. Those summer workers have put out numerous signs just in the last couple of weeks. To date, they've only actually had to go back and mow 3 of them. And so by and large, once someone has that sign in their yard, they get the hint, and within that week time frame, the property gets taken care
How
of.
much trouble do you have collecting if you actually have to do it?
I don't believe we've ever have any trouble doing it because I think it goes on the water bill.
Yeah, if they have a utilities account, they can put it on that. If there's a concern with that, or they're just one of those properties that doesn't have one, then the finance director can certify those costs to the county auditor as a lien for the property taxes. So there are ways to collect it.
The property that I'm talking about, somebody mowed it, okay? I don't know who mowed it. I gotta watch what I say, but it doesn't look very good, okay? In probably 2 or 3 weeks, if we get any rain, it's gonna be back where it was before. It's got junk all over. That's what I'm talking about, people like that. They got a mower, okay? They will not do it. I'm talking about people like that. I'm not talking about people that cannot mow. If they're disabled and they can't mow, I can understand that. But people that can mow and don't mow, $85 is not enough. I'm just gonna put it, I think it needs to be more than that. Of course, this person probably gonna go to court now. But and I understand what you're saying. One property gets mean, the others do it. That does not happen where I'm talking about. Everybody's mowed their lawn, everybody keeps everything nice except one person. And the guy behind him just redone his whole house on the outside. He put, new roofing, new siding, new everything. And with that property there, it just destroys the whole place back there. That's what I'm talking about, people like that. I think we need to do something. It needs to be more than $85 to do it. I think it should be $150, maybe more than that. This has got to stop, and I'm sure it's not just in where I'm talking about. That's my opinion.
Mr. Mast?
Well, and I think that's, to Mr. Engel's point, I think what we're looking at here are the serial offenders, the folks who are just not keeping up and ignoring the nuisance, basically, whatever it is. And I think the only thing I saw in here is if you have an equivalent offense within 5 years. I mean, I think we need to do something if you have consecutive offenses or multiple. I mean, it's got to be escalating further than just every 5 years, because that's what people just pay the $85 or pay the fine, and it's fine. But I guess the point is we need to convince people to stop.
Well, there will always be certain candidates that are good to send to court. Because at that point, right, they're just saying, I don't wish to participate in society anymore. They're not going to respond to a fine. Some people need that accountability where they go and stand before the judge. What Mr. Mack has said about a lot of the nuisance signs resolving themselves, I think, no pun intended, weeds out the just people that get behind with the rain from the truly bad actors. And I think some of the bad actors, we can look at prosecuting them, basically. And the first time it is a minor misdemeanor. The second time, within 5 years, it's a third-degree misdemeanor. So that's up to 60 days in jail, a $500 fine.
Well, the minor misdemeanor, and we're only charging $100 for that, which looks like 50199 allows up to $150 for that. Who schedules these misdemeanors for the lawn mowing? Where does that come from?
I'm sorry, who schedules them for what?
For the nuisances. Where does that come from? Is that something we dictated, or is that?
That's you weren't on council yet, but right. In 2017, council passed that. I think, can you go to the penalty section, Lisa?
I guess my question is, can we escalate that misdemeanor category?
You can't go above 150 for the minor misdemeanors, because we can't, we have home rule powers, like we often say in here, but they are subject to general laws, Ohio Revised Code, and that's what Ohio Revised Code says on that exact topic. So we can go up to 150, but one portion of the penalty section in 1701 or 1317.99, the penalty is when the court considers each day as a separate offense. That means each day is another $100 fine. Yeah. That's another tool that we have available to us for those truly bad actors. And that's in there.
That starts what?
That starts, so normally either the city administrator or his designee will send a nuisance or notice of violation for the nuisance. That starts 7 days after receipt. If the property owner does not clean up or does not abate the nuisance or appeal the city administrator's decision. Day 8, we could argue, and I want to emphasize, we can argue to the court, we can make the case that it should be $100 per day. Now, whether the judge wants to sentence the offender for that, my experience is, first-time offenders, they're not going to do that. if you're one of the select few people I have in mind who often goes in front of the court for situations like this, some of you know who he is, then the judge gets more creative in what sentences he might hand down.
This is back again to what I'm talking about. And this was 3 weeks before this even got mugged. There was 2 nuisance signs in there. One was taken down within a week, and it took another week for the nuisance signs to get in. This, what I'm talking about, he does not, or they do not do one thing to help that property. Like I say, somebody mowed it, but whatever they did, we get any more rain or anything, city's gonna be out. Last year, the city mowed it twice. And they had to move junk, they had to take a weed eater, get around the trees. It's annoying. And it's just not in the neighborhood where we're at, it's other places too, and that's what I like to try to get cleaned up somehow. But if you're gonna take it to the judge and he slaps him on the hand, there's no use to do it. And the way it sounds, that's what happens.
Well,
To a certain point.
yeah, if you're a serial offender and you keep going in front of the judge, you'll probably get more than a slap on the hand, in my experience over there.
Has this person ever been in front of the judge?
I don't want you to say his name, right?
Okay, no.
But I don't know exactly who he is. I've heard you talk about the property before,
Yes.
so I don't want to.
Okay, that's
I don't want to speculate.
Mr. Rusty?
I think as long as we look at, and I guess the word is consistent, something that's consistent with everybody, not just particular individuals, everybody, that it affects the same way for everybody. And if you have somebody who basically separates themselves from everybody, then we just have something for them too. And we understand that there is a system that tries to be fair for everybody. But at the same time, when you're looking at it, that a lot of people like to keep what they have in their wallet. And I think if we are basically able to find them whatever it is that we have in the books, and then something on top of that, and something on top of that, and something like that, that's of his own choosing or her own choosing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something that can be. And I think as long as a person does not walk away with nothing, or if they challenge the system, they don't feel that they're going to get something, that they do get something. I think the best thing that I look at is at least we're trying to do the best we can. But I understand what Mr. Engel's saying, but there is going to be that one individual. But we're not in for that one individual, we're in for the system and what is consistent for everybody. And I think that's what we have to stay focused on if we're going to be changing something. And if the habitual person who does things consistently against what we have in the books, we just have to address another penalty if we can do that. But that's all we can do.
He may just be the outlier, the gentleman or property owner you're talking about. The other thing I'd say in response is court versus city abatement. Those aren't mutually exclusive in our code. In other words, if we file our complaint for the tall grass and then wait for the court to set an arraignment date, we can also take abatement action ourselves. If we follow the provisions of our code, we can take the abatement action, posting the sign, mowing it, and charging the fine, the administrative fine. He's still committed, or she, whoever the property owner is, still committed a violation on such and such date. So those rare situations, and they are rare, like that, like you're discussing, might warrant going after them with everything we have.
Mr. Mack?
Yes, Mr. President. Our law director likes to tell me when I come in and ask him for help with stuff sometimes, be careful asking me for help because my prosecutorial powers are a hammer. If you don't want a hammer used, then let's work on another way to solve this problem. And I think he's absolutely correct for that because what we're talking about is people with high grass. and whether you want to have those people with high grass come in and be charged with a misdemeanor and have that on their record. Would it make sense to go that direction, or what I'm getting, Mr. Engel, and what I'm getting from some of the members of council, are we just looking for a higher fee or a higher penalty for multiple consecutive uses of our service, which our service is we end up coming and mowing your grass for you? So is there something that council would like to see more in the code, and is it possible for us to do something more along the lines of however many you choose, X amount of consecutive mowings that we have to do for you within a certain month period of time increases what we charge you, or attaches a penalty on it for multiple use versus having to take someone to, is it possible to do that, Sean, without having to take someone to court to create that through ordinance, or what? And if I'm completely off base, please let me know, jump in, but that's what I'm kind of hearing between some of the arguments on it.
You're drawing a difference between, there is a financial deterrent that we can do and continually work on a financial deterrent. And Mr. O'Donnell's, neighborhood is prosecution. That they could be one or the other, or that you were just saying that it don't have to be mutually exclusive, but there's multiple tools rather than just hit them with the law or keep charging them more money. I mean, there's several avenues to take.
So if you want to bypass the courts, and there are many reasons to do so, time, uncertainty if you're going to win. It's not entirely, when we go to court, the rules are different. It's not, well, your grass is tall. It's, we prove each and every element of the case beyond any reasonable doubt. And that's still a hurdle that we have to hit. It's not strict liability or the grass just happens, so somebody's guilty. But there are reasons to stay out of court. So one thing I would say, if you're thinking about penalties, the amounts specifically, if we can justify the amount we're charging, even an increased amount, with concrete costs that the city's incurring. We're paying the seasonals, 2 seasonals, X amount of dollars. We spend this much on the zero turns, this much on fuel. If we can tie it to that, a court's not going to disturb our fees. If we make them start to look like fines, if we make them say $500 because we had to come out there, but with no justification for why it's $500, then we're on shakier ground. Doesn't mean it's going to get charged summer of 20, or going to get challenged summer of 2025, but it will. Somebody eventually will figure it out and challenge. The other courts also say, if you're charging if cities charge for almost anything too much in relation to what they're paying to provide any service, it's an illegal tax. You have to go to voters for that in a levy.
Right. If that were the case, it would be the Crescent News.
Yes.
Which is something to consider. Mrs. Crutch, did you have a question?
Yeah, how many habitual people do we have every year? I mean, is there some people that only one time they had a nuisance, or is there some people that had 3, 4, 5 signs throughout the summer?
It fluctuates a little bit. I mean, I've only been here for a handful of summers, so I can't give you some concrete look back on how far it is. I can talk to our nuisance workers and see what they're seeing as far as if there's ones they know every time to go to, because every time they're going to be high.
Because it's probably not
try
just
to
that
get a
one
closer
person.
number.
There's probably
for
3,
you in the
4,
future.
maybe 10 other people.
That Excel spreadsheet still exists, right? Christy Feeney tracks all these nuisances?
I haven't gotten one for 2020.
Okay, all right.
Is that in our Dropbox? Did you
Yeah,
say?
it's under nuisance.
Well, our nuisance folks that are taking care of this have only been rolling now for a couple weeks, so we haven't probably accumulated enough data. You could go to last year's, Mrs. Crutch,
And check that line.
look and see
Okay.
if there are frequent flyers. You refer to them, and I guess as we refer to them. And there are some, but I can't tell you who they are definitely, but
So if we had a frequent flyer that did it 5 times, if we say the first time's it's 85, the second time you had $15 more,
Look up there now.
$85, then the extra $15 the next time, and then, I mean, then you're at 100, then 125, 150, I mean, would that alleviate some of the issues? Do you feel that maybe people would start getting the hint that they're hitting my pocketbook more? Or,
I think that goes with what he said about it has to look like that's a cost analysis versus levying a fine or so it has
Gotcha.
to be somewhat consistent, I would assume.
I would recommend that, Mrs. Crutch. If it's an outlier that's just for any of your wards, that's just saying, I can't do that on FCC, but that's just doing that, that's a candidate we just need to take to court.
gotcha,
And then we can explain to the judge, this guy just won't even play by our administrative code and our administrative rules and pay those fines. We need more help. And rather than have kind of a graduated scale, I think I would say do it that way, because they're still going to pay court costs in addition to any fines that court assesses.
Mr. Hancock?
And then these fines, I mean, I like the increments that Mrs. Crutch had mentioned, but I'd be interested to find out where we are as far as costs. Like you mentioned, our labor, sometimes my yard's different than someone else's yard. Also, you're looking at, I'm assuming that we probably mow 10 to 15 times in a season. So that's something that we might want to consider. We could mow more, but I know that some of the places that I've worked with, they mow about 14 times a year. Shorten it from the 5-year period is what Mr. Mass had mentioned to 3 years. Let's say you're allowed to have so many occurrences within a 3-year period. You could do that. And then if we find those, like what Mr. Engel mentioned, we might be able to push a little bit harder on them than the others. Also, the other thing I'm thinking about is these fees that we're discussing, or these amounts, is specifically for high weeds themselves. It's not for, let's say, vacant RVs that have been sitting in the yard. Are we looking at the same thing as far as the fees, or are we just looking at tall grass? Let's say I have a boat in my yard that's been sitting there that hasn't moved for a couple years. Is that something that's included in this portion?
That's something we would probably take, the boat would probably take to the nuisance abatement board and say this boat has to go. Mr. Corbett served on the inaugural nuisance abatement board. They would hear that. They would give the property owner a chance to come in and explain why he needs the boat there for 5 years and not move. And then they render their decision. Just a civilian administrative body that serves kind of a check on just the city administration making all the calls. And that actually helps us sometimes when these get sent to litigation, as we're in one now.
When we rewrote our nuisance code, it was the fellow that did that for us recommended the formation of that board, so that's why we did that.
And most of those, and the fees that we're discussing is based specifically just for weeds. Is that correct?
That this procedure is for weeds only because it takes a while we have to give 30 days notice before we convene a nuisance abatement board hearing. We don't want to wait 30 days and let the tall grass and the weeds just keep growing and growing. So we go ahead and do it that way, just for those.
Right. And like I said, I'd be interested in the cost and maybe reducing that from 5 to 3.
Well, I do like the 5 years. It's another tool because a lot of times you'll have an out-of-town landlord with a problem tenant, and the tenant's a big problem, and we understand that. But landlord's still responsible for bringing his property into compliance, whether he's here or whether it's a tenant or not. It's owner or occupant that's responsible under our nuisance code.
And I like that as well because we do have some properties that are owned by other institutions that are vacant that do have the tall grass.
Right, but with the 5-year provision, if the landlord evicts the tenant, gets another problem tenant in there 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we still have an enhancement to get to that 3rd-degree misdemeanor. Whereas if we cut it down, we have to start over with minor misdemeanor. So,
Mr. Rusty?
My question goes towards labor. How many hours, who does the mowing? Is it a special group of people?
It's 2 young people.
And we hire them for the summer?
Yes.
How many hours do they work in a week?
30.
Probably. How many?
30.
Probably.
Okay.
Now they do, Mr. Rusty, if they aren't doing nuisance mowing, they do other mowing, other in the stuff in the parks.
Okay. And I guess what I'm looking at is, we want to stay away from fines because a fine is not a good word, correct?
yeah, I think a court, if there were ever a challenge to this, would, if we were charging people different rates,
Okay.
would say, you have to give that property owner due process before you'd fine them that amount.
Yeah. So the thing comes down to that if these two gentlemen are only working so many hours in a week, and we have an abundance of people that are violators, we have, let's just say a type 1, which is the initial individual who's never been there before. He gets a sign in his yard, doesn't comply, so we have to mow his lawn. And he's one of the people that the two gentlemen have to mow. Let's just say there's 4 or 5 of them in a week that might use up most of those 20 hours. And then we got the type 2, which is the habitual individual who continues to basically not comply with the system at all, and we have to do something more. Well, if the gentleman only working 20 hours or whatever, or 30 hours, and then now we have to take in more hours to be able to deal with them, we could charge the overtime or whatever additional hours for those individuals. And it's just an idea. Looking at it in the hours side of it, and what is the scheduling of what their workload would be for the week, the initial and then anything thereafter is basically a higher wage because in essence, it's not part of the normal week. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think we are with you in that we would evaluate the hours and the cost of employing these two individuals. And the hard part is, how is it fair that one outlier or 3 or maybe half dozen outliers around town, everybody else pays for their services? That's the hard part. And my only answer to you on that is, if we can identify those outliers, they might be the candidates that make it to court, that we take to court. But you're right. I mean, that's not just. And as one state legislator put it to me when I went to his office to complain about a bill, he said, "Sean, we all pay for the deadbeats."
That is true. I want to go back to the point that Mr. Mack made, is we've placed, we don't have the number off the top of our head or at the tip of our fingers, many nuisance signs already this season, but I've only had to mitigate 3, correct?
Correct.
So that, the sign itself is effective. And we're in this 2-week period. These young folks have been on board now, and they'll get caught up here, and hopefully that we have some drier weather. I know the farmers would appreciate that, and everybody can get caught up on their lawn service. You have a unique situation, Mr. Engel, that you've brought to our attention on many occasions, and we'll try to pay a little closer attention to that. It's sad that in a nice neighborhood like you live in, that has to be a problem, but that's probably just somebody poking at us.
True story.
We have those folks.
I mean, you got them everywhere, it's just, I just like to see us really, if we gotta bite a little more, do something with it.
We have people like that. We have people that drive too fast through neighborhoods. It's any number of things.
And yeah,
People that stack trash.
Signs do work.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that, but in some cases, the signs don't work.
Well, and it's like Mr. Mack said earlier, but the hammer analogy, what we're applying is really a chainsaw, not a scalpel. And so if we take that approach, we're just going to raise the cost for everybody. That will penalize the people that, get sick one week or go on vacation and just forget or are just super busy at work, working long 60-hour weeks on the week that it rains. And that's something that we always wrestle with, probably always will.
I think the key is it's the willful offenders. I think probably do need to look at the fees or the labor rates mowing schedule, because mowing those tall grasses, that is tougher on a mower. It's harder on the equipment. And I'm looking through last year's list, and there's an individual in Jefferson that had 2 last year, and I see they've already got another one this year. That's the kind of willful offenders and violators that's just, I guess we just keep charging them until.
That's a good point Mr. Mass was saying about the equipment. If you talk to somebody who does it as a livelihood, he says, yes, I enjoy all these jobs that I have, but what it amounts to is after each large job, I have to resharpen the blades and put labor costs into preparing for the next cut. And so it isn't one of these things where machinery runs by itself. It has to be maintained so it's efficient when it does the next job and next job and next job. So, it's just something we probably have to consider also.
Not to mention what can be hidden in the grass.
Correct.
When it gets hit.
That's common. Could you go to the next slide, Madam Clerk?
Yeah.
The other common, we kind of talked about this earlier, but it's a little more detail, are the dangerous structures that we bring in Rex Robeson, residential building official for that. And we go to the nuisance abatement board often. If you go to the next slide. Junk cars, this is another one that we see a lot, and they're usually indicators of more problems with the rest of the property. One thing that often trips people up that we get complaints about, I know Mr. Mack does, is it could be an unlicensed vehicle or any vehicle propelled or intended to be propelled by power other than human power, which is inoperative or partially dismantled condition. So sometimes people will say, well, yeah, it works. I just haven't renewed the tags from 2017. Well, that's not good enough under our code. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Next slide, please. There are some exceptions. What if you have, sometimes we'll get the, my cousin who's also my mom's boyfriend and I want to fix up our old 1987. Yeah, how does that even work? I didn't do that family tree in my head yet. We want to fix up our 1987 Pinto in our yard, disassemble it, and put it all together over a span of 3 years. But you can't do that. But if you have a garage, a closed building, like an indoor shop or something like that, you can do that if it's closed in. Not a carport, but a closed in building, you can do that. You can have a junkyard in the city. We have some. But it's not just I'm turning my backyard into a junkyard. It's you have to be registered with the state. The county auditor has a say in it as well. You have to register with the county. There's some ORC, Ohio Revised Code provisions you have to comply with. It's not just strewing car parts across the backyard. Next slide, please. We've been doing some demolitions this year. 1040 Harrison, we started with the garage. Last week we just took the structure itself to the nuisance abatement board. I do want to say we've had a lot of cooperation with the family. Three of the 9 owners that we've counted so far have kind of assisted us in this process, but we're moving towards demolition on that. Next slide, please. The 1104 Schultz, that also went before the nuisance abatement board. It's in some litigation right now, but we hope to resolve that rather quickly. And so that will come down as well. Next slide, please. And this is the penalties, Mr. Mass, section we were just discussing. It's at minor, the $100 per offense per day. You could realistically go up to 150 per day if council saw some deterrent value in that. My sense is if they don't care about $100 per day, they're not going to care about $150. But I mean, it's one more way you can stick them.
Have you noticed any difference in these properties that you've found? Are they more owner occupant or are they something other, like out of town situations?
Yes.
If I may ask, I mean, I'm just curious to see if it's more owner occupant than it is.
I would have thought the latter coming into this job, but we've had quite a few that have been owner occupied. In fact, 1040 Harrison, one of the owners lived there until about 2 months ago when he passed away, sadly. But yeah, some of them, and I don't want to point fingers,
No,
but
okay.
Yeah, coming into this job, I would have just thought it's those landlords that are just letting these go. And yes, that happens, but there's also a lot of we have a senior population where they can't do as much anymore in the city. We have disabled people that maybe they own their house, free and clear from mom and dad, and then mom and dad have passed on, and they just can't keep up with it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mast?
I think it's important to remember that we're not here to dictate how people live their lives through this nuisance code. That's not what it's about. We're here, the nuisance code is to support safety, cleanliness, sanitation. I mean, we're here to keep the city clean and safe. That's what we're after. We're not here to tell people how to live their lives. I think that's the most important thing we got to remember here.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think property owners have the right to enjoy their property, and if your neighbor is not complying, it does take away from, it distracts you from enjoying what you have.
I guess, but my point is that's what the nuisance code's for, though, is not just to picket people to mow their lawn. There is a reason behind it that's substantial.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, I mean, so this is a study session. You can recommend changes. You don't have to do it tonight, but you're free to write me an email or something and say, hey, next council meeting, I might bring this up to change this portion of chapter 1317 to reflect that. If I don't think it's the greatest idea, I will tell you, but I'll also tell you why. And you're free to regard or disregard that as you please.
You had a question, Mr. Posey?
Yes, why not go back to the old chain gang? They'll be paying off their fine. I see they get in the court news that they get reduced fines or reduced sentences and costs and everything else. Why not allow them to go in and
I'm not sure that's allowed anymore, is it?
CCNO has cut back on that. Due to litigation concerns, I think they did have an inmate pass away a couple years ago on one of the buses or the vans. Yeah.
I just want to bring it up.
And that was for inmates typically.
It's paying off their fines.
Mrs. Crutch?
I just have a question about the junk cars, because I know I've called on different occasions about some different cars that don't have the licenses. They haven't moved or whatever, but they're still there, and this has been 2 years. So you don't get a nuisance sign for those, but you call about those. How long does it take for those things to be taken care of? Because, you call, you don't get a nuisance sign. Is it 7 days? Is it 10 days? Is it 15 days?
So with junk cars, normally you're right, Mrs. Crutch. We would not put the sign right up on your house there. What I've seen Mr. Dirk do is often he'll send he calls them, what we call them door knockers. And that's not even a citation. That's like a pre-citation. Say, hey, you've got this vehicle. It's got a 2017 sticker on it. Reminds me I need to renew mine by Friday. But you have not taken any action. Was Friday the 1st or no, that's Saturday.
You have not taken any action since 2017. What's the deal? And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, like the person's sick or in a nursing home, not making excuses. That's how he finds out. That's how he does his fact find. The next thing he'll do is send the citation. And you have to do that by certified mail and regular mail. And sometimes people ask, why do you have to do both? Why can't you just do one? A lot of people, it has something from city letterhead. They know it's not good news. I'm not signing for that. So we send them regular just so that we can get the service.
So from the door knocker to the citation, how many days is that? Does he give you?
He normally will check back every 2 weeks on a given case. I mean, he's in there, he's talking to us every Tuesday or Thursday, but if a case gets a door knocker, am I correct that he gives it 14 days and then he checks back with you? And he's religious about checking back with you. He's in your door, he darkens your doorway and he wants to know the answer. So, and then once you get your citation, you have 7 days from the date of receipt again to appeal that determination. At that point, city administrators already said this is a nuisance. You can appeal it, or you just get rid of the junk car. Or make it not a junk car.
Or make it not a junk car. Make it not a junk
We're playing on it.
Are there any other follow-up comments or questions for
He's
Mr.
sitting
O'Donnell?
down now because
He's
he's
sitting
wore
down
out.
because-
I have something along with the fact about speeding down on,
Well, we're in a study session
Yes.
on the nuisance ordinance. Is that germane to what Mr. O'Donnell just
you just
presented?
asked him about if there was any other questions about it.
The study, in the study session. If not, we've had citizens' concerns, we've had the study session. Do we have a motion to adjourn for this evening? So moved, Mr. Corbett. Second, Mr. Engel. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.